Welcome, welcome to C Fundamentals. In this C Fundamentals session, we are going to discuss about constants, variables, expressions, symbolic constants, statements, enumeration, and escape sequences. We'll discuss it briefly. Constant. So as I already told you in the previous sessions, so any name which you use in C language is an identifier, a valid identifier. So constant is also an identifier, but whose value doesn't change during the execution of the program. That means once you assign some value to the constant, you cannot change the value. Because the value remains same, it is called as constant. There are three types of constants: literal constants, constants declared using const reserved word, and then symbolic constants which are defined using hash define, hash define. Literal constant is nothing but the number. Just write the number or character, whatever it be. So it becomes a literal constant. Integer constant, floating point constant, character constant, string constants. You just write the integer, float or character or string, it becomes a constant. So definitely if you have say 9, if you have 9, you don't change 9. You cannot change the 9. 9 remains the same. 9 remains the same. 12.5. 12.5 remains the same. Character A, it remains the same. CHENNA is a string. It remains same. You cannot change it. You cannot change it. In order to change it, you have to assign it to a variable, and variable is an identifier whose value can change during the execution of the program. Its value can change during the execution of the program. That means you can declare the variable, you can assign some value, but while the programming is being executed, depending on your requirement, you can change the value. You can assign different value to it. So more appropriate definition is it's a quadruple consisting of a name of a variable, type of a variable, address, and value which is stored at that address. So it's a quadruple programming language definition. A variable has a name, variable associated with the variable will be the type of the variable, what type of values that are stored, and then the variable will be the value will be stored at some particular address. At that address, the actual value will be stored. So it's a quadruple. So, but for all these things, you have to declare them. So, for literal constants, you need not declare. But if you want to use const reserved word constants, you want to define the constants using const or using hash define, then you have to declare. Similarly, here also variables are to be declared. In C language, that is compulsory. In other programming languages like Python, explicit declaration is not necessary. Depending on what value you assign, it takes that type, data type. But here it should be declared. A variable should be declared. So the syntax is integer data type, variable 1, variable comma, variable 2, etc. You can declare any number of variables, but the declaration will be terminated by what is called as semicolon. At the end, there will be what is called as semicolon. These dots indicate that any remaining variables can be declared here. So similarly, if you want to declare a constant, then it should start with const data type identifier equal to some value. You can have list of identifiers also. I think here it should be terminated with a semicolon, because multiple assignments in C language is not permitted. So const data type identifier equal to value followed by semicolon. Now what exactly the data types we are going to come across? So we have different types of data types that are supported. For the time being, just remember integers, floats, characters, strings, etc. are the data types. An expression is a combination of operators and operands. So okay, you have variables, constants, literal constants also. But what is the purpose? You will be combining them. To form what are called as expressions. Say a plus b or 5 plus 10. It's an expression. So evaluation of expression will result in some value. Evaluation of the expression will result in some value. Evaluation of the expression should result in a value. And it should not change the values of the operands. That means if A plus B are there, the A content and B content are to be added, and it should result in some value. But A value should not get modified, B value should not get modified. So that is considered as a side effect that is not permitted actually. That is not permitted in C language. So it's a combination of operators and operands. Operators means plus, minus, star, etc., which stands for addition, subtraction, multiplication. And operands means there can be variables A, B, or there can be directly values 5, 10. And the operands can be, again, we can go to any extent. The operands can be function calls also. We'll see later what exactly is the function. So this is one of the expressions, A plus B star 10. A plus B star 10. A C program consists of sequence of statements. A C program consists of sequence of statements. You have variables, constants, and then you can form the expressions. All combined together, they form what is called as sequence of statements. Sequence of statements. Statements can be classified into 3 types: declarative statements, executable statements, and then control statements. Declarative statements are those which provide the information. Example, variable declaration. Say int followed by space followed by A. That means A is an integer variable. It provides the information. Whereas executable statements will result in some action to be taken. Like A plus B. What is the action? A content and B content are to be retrieved and they are to be added. So in C language, semicolon acts as a statement terminator. So every C language statement will terminate with the semicolon. Okay, it is written at the end of the declarative statements and executable statements. There are some statements for which you don't write the semicolon at the end. Like looping, for loop, while loop, etc. We'll discuss the loops later. But there you don't write. But in declarative statements and executable statements, all those things will be terminated by a semicolon. Control statements control the execution of other statements. C equal to A plus B is a normal statement. But this statement can be executed once. This statement can be executed number of times. Or this statement can be executed when something is true. Something is false, the statement may not be executed. Such type of control is given by what is called as control statements or control structures. We'll study different control structures later. But statements which control the execution of other statements are called as control statements. 3 types are there: sequencing, conditional statements, iteration or repetition statements. So these are called as structured programming concepts. We'll study as part of control structures later. Symbolic constant, as I already told you, they are to be declared. They are to be defined. In fact, they are to be defined using what is called as hash define. Hash define followed by name followed by test. In the sense that hash define space followed by name which you want to give, and test is nothing but you can say the value. So hash define x 10. That means 10 is assigned to x. X takes the value of 10. The advantage here is wherever x appears in your program, except in comments, in any expression, if x appears independently, then x value will be replaced by that 10 value. The advantage is programs become more readable and easily modifiable. So you can declare like this: hash define C 3 plus 5. That means hash define in the result board you have to use as it is, and then followed by C, the name, followed by the test. So wherever C appears within the program, this will be replaced. Here you have declared C as 3 plus 5. So this will be replaced. After replacing, evaluation takes place. We'll see some differences in the programming examples. So you may think that, say, hash define C is 3 plus 5. So you may think that it is 8. So C is 8. So 8 star 8 is 64. 8 star 8 is 64. D gets the value of 64. But it's not the case. So initially, wherever C occurs, whatever the code you have written, whatever the value you have written here, that will be substituted. And then evaluation takes place. 3 plus 5 star 3 plus 5. It will result in different value. Again, we have to consider what is called as precedence of operators. To be specific, actually 5 star 3 will be evaluated first. 5 star 3. 5 star 3 is 15. 15 plus 3, 18. 18 plus 5, 23. So the value of it will be 23, not 64. So we'll discuss about the precedence of operators, associativity of the operators, the operator section. You can declare multiple multi-line macros also. You can write small amount of code, though it is not recommended, but you can write small amount of code. When you write multi-line code, each line should terminate with, except the last line, should terminate with this slash. Enumeration. Enumeration is a list of constant integer values. List of constant integer values. You can declare like this. Enum, it is the result word you have to use as it is, and then followed by boolean. Within the brackets, you have declared it as yes, no. That means x value takes 0, no value takes 1, no takes 1, yes takes 0. List of constant integer values, but here we are using symbols, but they will take the values 0, 1, etc. 0, 1, 2, 3 like that. So wherever you use 0, x, wherever you write x, so the value that will be taken is 0. Wherever you write no, the value that will be taken is 1. So we'll discuss the programming examples of it also. So other way is, if you by default what happens is the first one takes 0, second one 1 like that. If you want to override it, you can write like this: s is equal to 1. In that case, no takes 2. So you can start at any point. Escape sequences. Escape sequences are used whenever you want to type some characters, but you cannot directly type them. For that, you have to use combination of characters to represent some other characters which cannot be represented directly. You cannot print them directly. So an escape sequence always begins with a backslash and is followed by one or more special characters. Begins with slash followed by one or more special characters. The examples are like this. So slash t stands for horizontal tab. Usually tab is some 8 spaces. 8 spaces. So instead of typing spaces separately, you can just type what is called a slash 2. 8 spaces will be printed. Slash n, new line. How do you go to the next line? So you can just write slash n within some statement. Within the print statement, you can write it. We'll discuss those examples. And if you want to produce the beep sound, you can write slash a. You print it, you will get a beep sound. So like this, you can have different escape sequences. So escape sequences are those which represent some other characters. Mangalamastu. This is what we have discussed. What is exactly the constant? What is variable? Different types of constants, like literal constants. Constants declared using CONST wizard word, and then symbolic constants. And what exactly is the variable? What is the definition of escape sequence? What are enumerations? These things we have discussed in this class. So thank you for joining.